everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Mego Museum's Vintage Mego, where we discuss the golden age of Mego toys. This time we're headed to 1980 and one of the last released toys for the Pocket Superheroes brand, namely the Bat Machine and the programmable Spider Machine. These really don't get talked about very much, and a lot of people don't even know they exist. Both of these items were created during Mego's rapid expansion into the handheld electronics market. Mego spent millions on R&D developing handheld games and toys. They had Nintendo Game & Watch, 2XL, many remote control vehicles, Fabulous Fred, and our subjects today. Just as an aside, a lot of people think that Mego not having the Star Wars license was what caused their downfall. That's been published a great deal, but it isn't really the truth at all. In fact, it's far more complicated. And one of the biggest factors were these electronic games. The industry, as Marty Abrams would tell shareholders in 1981, had an over-proliferation of electronic merchandise by the entire industry and a slowdown in consumer demand. When you spend millions upon millions on licensing and research and development and you do not get your investment back, that hurts you. And that wounded many companies in the early 1980s. And that was one of the biggest cuts Mego experienced. I'll save the rest for some rant down the line. Let's look at these two vehicles. Mego was doing something very clever with the machines. They were knocking off another popular electronic toy, namely Milton Bradley's Big Track, which had been out for a couple of years. What they were doing was they were simplifying it and adding a popular superhero license to it, and also making them vehicles for their action figure brands. The Big Track was just an independent thing. You couldn't put a figure in it. I would like to point out that both these machines in 1980 were featured in the J.C. Penney catalog, where they were retailing for almost $28, which was a lot of money back then. The programmable Bat Machine was described as sleek and swift, and it's completely believable that Batman would have this thing in the Batcave. When we look at Spider-Man, not so much. Where would Peter Parker keep this, and why would he need it, are questions nobody seemed to ask and nobody seemed to care. While it's called the Programmable Spider Machine in the US, you can clearly see that the box I have says Spider Trax. Spider Trax is the Mexican name for the Spider Machine. This comes from a company called Ensueno, one of Mego's partners south of the border. Unlike predecessors Lili Ledy or Cipsa, Ensueno wasn't bound by the same strict manufacturing laws of the 1970s. They actually imported product made in Hong Kong, or in the case of the Spider Trax, Taiwan. In the 1970s and 80s, Taiwan seemed to have a big monopoly on creating electronic toys. The major difference between the Spider Trax and the Spider Machine, other than the name, is Ensueno included a Spider-Man pocket superhero figure, because they didn't actually sell the line separately there like they did in the United States. So let's see if either of mine work, shall we? As far as I know, these items were only ever sold in the United States and Mexico. I personally have never seen a Canadian Grand Toys box for one of these. I'd certainly love to be proven wrong, especially if you have one for sale, but I don't think they're out there. These vehicles were not a hit for Mego. Like much of its electronics offerings, they did not return for 1981. The amount of money that they put into these electronic offerings only to have them not pay off due to the implosion in the marketplace seriously hurt the company in 1981. On the secondary market, they're pretty tough to find, with box mint examples fetching hundreds of dollars. As a personal aside, I could never sell this Bat Machine despite it missing its sticker pack. This is because when I received it, I was standing next to Marty Abrams and Neil Cublin at a Mego convention, and I got both of them to sign it right then and there. So, in addition to it being a highly collectible Batman toy, it's a moment in time for me that I'll never have back. Neil is no longer with us, and it will always remind me of that wonderful day. So, it's not going anywhere. Anyway, that's it for Vintage Mego this week. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're new to this, I hope you'll consider hitting like and subscribe. And as always, if you want to chat about this or any other Mego item, you can hit me up in two places. Our Facebook group, Megomania, or the forums at megomuseum.com. Thanks for watching. Take care. And as always, talk toys, not other people.